That was a quick cutoff. Good morning, everybody. It is National Dress Like Tyler DeMars Day, and I did my best. I don't own brown shoes. Yeah, we got it. Anybody else vesting it up today? I see a few. Very good. Very good. Tyler, you have such beautiful, shapely calves, and I'm really not pulling it off. So, but Tyler's up front. If you see him, just say happy Dress Like Tyler DeMars Day. Yeah. Mwah. Welcome to 1 Million Cups, everybody. I'm Kate from the Downtown is going to be your MC. We've got a lot to get through today. Get checked in. If you have the app or you don't have the app, download it and check in. It'll tell you kind of who's coming up. You can leave comments, blah, 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 blah. I mean, most of the comments should be PG, please. So check in if you haven't already. Want to thank our sponsors. If you're part of one of these organizations, you want to throw your hand up? Nice. Give them a huge round of applause, maybe a big kiss. Kiss Ross. These are the crew that make it possible for us to be here to get the coffee, although we ran out really fast today, so I don't know. Someone's sucking it down. What is 1 Million Cups? Do we have any new people here this morning? Oh, there you go. Hello. Good morning. What's your name? Okay, that's pretty cool. That's a good, solid name. Welcome, Jonathan. Okay, we're gonna find a mug for you. Okay, all the newbies get a 1 Million Cups mug. So find us, we'll get you one. All right. What is 1 Million Cups? Is a free weekly program. We get together. We hear from an entrepreneur. We hear from a panel of experts. All things that have to do with entrepreneurship and how can we, as a 1 Million Cups community, help them succeed. So we get together, having a whole bunch of coffee. Again, we've sucked it all down, so everybody's just jacked this morning. I'm excited for the questions because you guys are so awake, which will be great. We're going to have a robust Q&A afterwards, so the speakers are going to kind of move through their presentations at a good clip so we can save a lot of time for Q&A. And you can ask anything. As I always mention, you can ask Brent what his PIN number is. Caroline, do you know what it is? She's lying. She's lying. But we're going to have a great Q&A. If you are on social media, use hashtag 1MCND. We'll ask your question for you. Or just raise your hand, and we'll find you with the mug. So, community announcements. Do we have any community announcements? You don't have to have a slide to have a community announcement. Bill, Dean.
Well, this is the last time I'll be up here presenting this one. The class is coming up on Tuesday. This is the free system I use to go from $37,000 in debt to $37,000 in the bank and beyond. So this is an awesome tool to help run your personal finances. I use it for my business. You can use it for investments. It's a sweet tool, and it's absolutely free. There's nothing to sell to buy it, but it can truly change your life and your finances. I'm bringing up a gal from Dallas to teach it because turns out there's even trainers who do that. So sweet. But check it out Tuesday. It's a webinar, so you can enjoy it from your couch.
Awesome. Give it up for Bill.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lake Ani. I'm Program Director at the North Dakota Women's Business Center, and for me, too, this is the last time you're going to hear about the Women's Business Summit, because it happens tomorrow, October 28th. We have virtual tickets left, so if you did not get your in-person tickets, you're really going to miss out. But we're happy to have you virtually, and if you're interested in that, you can email us or call us at the office there, ndwbc.com, to find that information. I encouraged all of us to dress like Tyler today, and then when I got dressed, I realized that my usual wardrobe is very similar to Tyler's anyway.
I think she nailed it. That's good. Good work.
And now when I get home, I'm going to reevaluate my life. But anyway, yeah. Thanks for being a good sport if you did dress up like Tyler. Women's Business Summit's happening tomorrow. Hit us up.
Give it up for Lakin. Any other community announcements? You do not have to have a slide. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, we're going to get to our main event because we have 3 awesome panelists this morning. What if you had a great idea, and maybe it involves horses, maybe it involves swords, maybe it involves alcohol. What do you do? I mean, people come to us all the time with those ideas, and I go, how the heck are you going to insure that horse, alcohol, sword play thing? So that's what we're going to find out today. And if you have that idea, come find me. We can partner up. We've got 3 folks that are going to kind of take sections of how to protect yourself, protect your assets if you're coming up with either a great idea or a deadly or dangerous idea. So let's see I think, Tom, you are first. Yes, Tom is first. Tom's going to talk about patent business law. Tom, you want to come on up? Give it up for Tom.
Excellent. How does this work? Just click the button.
Yep, click the button. You got it.
Absolutely. My name's Tom Kading, and I am with a company called Fargo Patent and Business Law. I'm a patent attorney, also do business law. Little disclaimer, education purposes, typical stuff. A little bit about me. I took a little bit of an atypical route to get into private practice. So during law school, I ended up starting a number of different businesses. I was involved heavily in real estate, got a bunch of investors, bought homes all over the southern United States, worked out really well. Also got involved in cryptocurrency, some manufacturing, automation, CBD, a bunch of random things. Was involved in the legislature, 2014, first got elected. But now on to Fargo Patent and Business Law, and I'm going to kind of go quickly. I know we only have like 6 minutes. So Fargo Patent and Business Law, what we do there is we're kind of a niche law firm. We focus on intellectual property and business law. Intellectual property, patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets. Business side, we do contracts, corporate law, corporate work, which is entities, LLCs, corporations, that sort of thing, exempt securities, and disputes. So if you look at business law, this is how I like to categorize things. There are really 4 categories of business law. You have employment law, tax law, which I don't really get into either of those. Those are kind of niches in themselves. Where we focus is the intellectual property and the business side. Intellectual property, not many people, not many attorneys out there actually do that because you have to have an engineering background as well as a legal background to actually do patent law. So it's very niche, and that's kind of where I like to be. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about risk analysis. So when a company comes in and says, hey, I want to look at my business and figure out, where are my risks and how do I mitigate my risks? Talk a little bit about entities, securities, contracts, and then intellectual property. So kind of my risk analysis. I have a 10-step process. Someone comes in. The first thing we do is figure out where are those risks. And identifying a risk sometimes is more complicated than you might think. If you run a trucking business, it's pretty straightforward. If someone gets in an accident, that's a risk. But if you're mitigating the risk you have with potentially a vendor, let's say, or a vendor relationship risk, that can get more complicated. How do you write those contracts? How do you structure things? So we identify things, we try to structure it properly. That might include entities, registrations, different things. The next thing I look at is setting expectations. And a great example of that is, what I always tell people is don't overpromise and underperform. Because that can get people emotional, it can get people fired up, and that emotion can ultimately drive a dispute when something goes wrong. Next thing, contracts, we're going to talk a little bit about that later. Disclosures and training, making sure you properly communicate to your customers and your employees, what those risks are and how to deal with them. Documentation, how are you documenting different situations? So if something does go wrong, it's clearly covered. Response to an incident, if you know you have a particular risk in your business, have a plan. If you're an office building, have a plan. What happens when a slip and fall happens? How are you going to respond to that and document it? Communication, a great example of communication, and this is just one example, but if you run a business and you have investors and you're not communicating to your investors or your partners, things can go bad very quickly. And so investors might begin to think, well, you're mismanaging the money, you're making poor decisions, or they might think on the other end of things, well, the business is going way better than it actually is. And when they find out it's not going that way, there could be some unpleasant surprises. We look at insurance, but Brent's going to talk about that today. Maintenance programs really are relevant, whether you have intellectual property, equipment, whatever that might be. And then finally, review and oversight. Review and oversight, example of that might be accounting. Is the same person who writes the checks also reconciling the books? That creates an opportunity for fraud. So when you start a business or run a business, you really have two choices. Do you want to be personally liable for everything in the business, or do you want to set this thing up in a limited liability entity? And my advice is always set up a limited liability entity. And 9 times out of 10, LLC is the way to go. That's what I recommend. It's a very easy entity to work with. Corporations do have their place, but most of the time, an entrepreneur can take advantage of an LLC. So you might say, hey, well, I got my LLC in place. I'm not going to be liable personally for what's happening in the business. And yes, that's true if you follow the rules. Now, these kind of situations really apply to worst case scenario when things go wrong. And if things go wrong and you're not following the rules, there's the potential to have some problems. And the most common way to end up being held personally liable, or most commonly understood, is piercing the corporate veil. And that's basically saying, disregarding the entity and the court saying, hey, you're liable for this incident of negligence. There are elements that go into that, such as fraud or wrongdoing, not following corporate formalities. But you have to treat your entity serious, essentially. The next one is failure to follow the rules of, let's say, your operating agreement. So if you're on a board, and it could be a nonprofit board, and that board isn't following the rules, that board of director could potentially be held liable for different acts. And there's all kinds of nuance to it and complications, but be careful as a board member. And O&D insurance, if I'm asked to be on a board, I want to have insurance in place, not because I'm going to do anything wrong, but accidents happen and bad things happen. Self-dealing. So if you're in a company, you manage a company and you have some partners, investors, whatever that might be, and you decide, hey, I'm going to sell this asset that the company has to myself. It could be at a discounted price. It could be at fair market value. The other investors or partners might say, hey, that's self-dealing. You can't do that. That's not allowed. And you could potentially be liable for that. I'm going to touch on security violations a little bit later. Improper distributions. So let's say your company owes $100,000 to a vendor and has $50,000 in the bank. You can't just distribute that $50,000 to yourself or the owners. That vendor potentially has a method to come back and get that money. So securities can be a kind of a scary thing in North Dakota. It can be a scary thing in any state, but North Dakota has a law in place that says if you don't follow the rules, if you don't file the proper documentation with the securities office, and you sell part of your business or you make take on certain loans from private individuals, and you don't file the right documentation, you can be personally liable to that investor or to that person who made that loan to the company. So if you're going to sell your company, you're going to take on a loan from a private individual, make sure you talk to your attorney or at least have a fine understanding of securities law. So contracts and waivers. Contracts, waivers, all contracts is allocating risk. So two or more parties saying, hey, this is where the risk lays in this relationship. So on the left, you'll see this is a picture of my office. So I work on the 3rd floor, and there's a couple slides of the building. One goes from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor. And one of the things you have to do if you're going to access that part of the building, you have to sign a waiver saying, if we access it and we hurt ourselves, we're not going to sue you. Now, waivers aren't a be-all, end-all, because you can't waive everything. If, let's say, the business didn't maintain that slide and was negligent in keeping it up to speed, you still could probably sue the business and potentially win at that. So the final item I want to talk about, intellectual property. So intellectual property, ideas, concepts, names, can be a very valuable asset to your company. And one of the risks you have are, what if my competition comes out and steals my idea and takes it for themselves? So aside from contracts, there really are 4 methods to protect your intellectual property. There's patents, which give you the right to make, use, sell a particular something for a time period. That's kind of an invention is what commonly is associated with patents. There are trademarks that protects your brand, your name. Copyrights, that protects written documents, pieces of art, works, that sort of thing, creative works. And then trade secrets. Trade secrets are really just a legal method to maintain a secret. So those are some of the ways you can protect an idea. If you have an idea that is a valuable asset to your business, it might be worth considering one of those. And that's kind of a wrap for my end. I don't know if we take questions now or later.
We'll do it at the end, Tom. So give it up for Tom. And I'll have you skip to the last if you don't mind. So Tom, you're an attorney, but you have a slide in your office.
I do.
Okay.
It's a fun office.
All right, sounds good. Next, we're going to have Brent come up. He's going to talk about insuring my horse sword alcohol business. Give it up for Brent.
This one. Okay. So your sword horse alcohol business, Kate, all of those things can be insured separately, typically. Sometimes companies will get on board and be able to do things like if you have beer and sword throwing, but you want to make sure that you're telling your insurance professional what your business is actually doing so that you don't have to call Tom and say, hey, Tom, I've got a problem. My insurance company is not going to cover this, right? So that's a little bit what I'm going to talk about. I'm with the Bain Agency here in Bismarck, and Been a licensed agent since 2009, commercial business focused for the last 3 years. I help out with SCORE, which is helping small businesses within the community and the state. I'm an ambassador with the Chamber of Commerce, and I do have some board involvement. And me being in the insurance business, Tom alluded to it, but that O&D, or directors and officers coverage for boards of directors. So any company that has a board of directors should talk to their insurance professional about that coverage. And the board members themselves should be talking to the board that they're on about that coverage too, to protect yourself, protect your assets, like it says here. What we do is we want to take a look at your business when we come in and you say, hey, I want to get some new insurance, or I'm starting this new business. We want to look at it from a whole. You know, there's a general liability or a property type coverage that you can get, but it doesn't always cover every little nuance of your business, right? So think about, I have general liability coverage, and if I'm going down the slide at Tom's office and the slide falls apart and I fall to the ground, his general liability, if the insurance company knows that he has a slide in his office, is likely going to be covered. But if there would be something else that might happen, like and not the slide situation, but let's say I have tools. I'm a contractor and I have tools, and I have those tools in my shop 75% of the time, but I take those tools out of my shop to go to a job site. My on-site property coverage may not cover those tools while they're in my truck or my trailer, or while they're sitting on a job site. So those are just things that we want to take a look at, you know, at all facets of your business and where you're going, so that we can properly put a package together. And when Johnny emailed me, I was very happy that I get an audience, and I think they locked the doors out there so nobody could leave. Because normally when an insurance agent walks into the business, everybody that makes decisions runs away from us. So it's nice to have an audience here to talk to about this stuff. This is what we do. And you know, like I said, I've got the general liability. We do everything, and I'm not going to read through the whole list, but a couple of things that I want to really focus on are some of the things that people don't think about in their insurance business. Cyber liability is a huge one, right? And we were talking about this a little bit in the beginning, but you know, with everything, especially now with COVID, right? Everything is online. Everybody does business online. Everybody's information is online. You know, cyber attacks are the fastest growing crime in the world. And if your business is doing, if your business has a computer or a cell phone that has people's information on it or business information on it, you need to talk to your insurance professional about cyber liability coverage. Because even if you think, well, I'm just a mom and pop, you know, grocery store, it doesn't matter. Like, I think Mike said earlier, 1 in 3 businesses is going to get hit by a cyber attack this year. So those stats are kind of scary. We talked a little bit about the directors and officers coverage. That's another. Like I said, any business that has a board of directors should have that coverage if your board is involved in your business whatsoever. Errors and omissions and professional liability coverage, that's another one. That you know, if somebody comes out and they do something wrong, they may think, well, I have general liability coverage. I'm going to be covered for this. You know, if I put I'm building swing sets and I put the wrong type of bolts in the swing set and they rust over time, and I didn't use galvanized bolts versus, you know, regular bolts. That kind of stuff could be professional liability issues because I did my job incorrectly. So you want to make sure that if you're doing that kind of stuff, you're creating a product, you're providing a service, that you do have professional liability, or what they call errors and omissions. In the medical field, they call it malpractice typically. Those types of things. Excess liability, right? We're in a world today where litigation is prevalent. It's everywhere. And excess liability provides additional liability coverage over and above. So if your business is worth $5 million, is $1 million in liability insurance enough coverage to protect your assets? No, it's not. You've got to have $5 million unless you're going to self-insure $4 million, which I know I couldn't do that. But another one, employment practices liability is a huge one. So employment practices liability, typically every business has employees, right? Employees are hired, fired. You have more than one employee in a room. There could be issues, right? Somebody doesn't get hired, and they say it was because of this reason. That can be an issue. Somebody gets fired, they say it's because of this reason. That can be an issue. Tyler says something wrong to Madison in the workplace. Madison takes that and says, hey, I didn't appreciate that. That can be a problem. And employment practices liability is the coverage that a business needs to make sure that that kind of stuff is, you can't stop it from happening necessarily, but you can protect your business and not have to pay attorney fees, all that kind of stuff out of your own pocket. Let us pay Tom. And then we do some group benefits and personal lines as well. But really, that's what we do. And you can see this van in the bottom of this pool, right? And when you look at this, as an insurance claim, you're thinking about the van, right? Like, what does it cost to get that van? Is that van totaled? Like, the things that I think about the van, of course, but I also think about what did it have to drive through to get into the pool? Are we paying for a fence? Are we paying for somebody else's house? And to get the car out of the pool, are we paying for a wrecker? Are we paying for a crane? Are we paying for any of that kind of stuff? Like, you have to make sure. And pollution coverage, like, let's say that's not a pool, but it's a lake, and your car leaks oil or gasoline or any fluid into that body of water that's protected by the government. That's going to cost money to make sure that it's clean and that there's no more gas or oil or anything in that body of water. And the other thing I was just going to say, and I told Kate I had a joke, but I started Insanity last night. And if you've ever seen Insanity, it's a lot of jump jacks and up and down and a lot of running in place. And my neighbors called me at about 8 o'clock last night and said, hey, can we get earthquake insurance on our house? And I said, well, why? And they said, well, because our house was shaking like crazy, about an hour ago. I said, oh, don't worry, that was just me doing Insanity.
Brent, I don't know. Look at the calves on that guy. Tyler, you gotta get with this. Yeah. Woo. Okay. Awesome. So what I'm hearing, Brent, is you can insure my sword horse booze business.
We do tell people that we can insure anything. You might not like the price,
okay,
but we can get the
all
coverage.
Right. We'll work on the price. Okay. Last up, we're going to talk with Randy. He's essentially making bombs, right? I don't know. That's kind of what you're making, right? Give it up for Randy, everybody.
Hello, my name is Randy with a company out of Bismarck here called Germoff. So hopefully some of you have heard of us, but if not, we're a local manufacturer of a hand sanitizer lotion. And just a little bit history about our company. It was Germoff was actually started at the beginning of the pandemic when hand sanitizer was unavailable. So they ramped up real quickly, sold a bunch of it. A bunch of other companies got into that space during that time too. And as the mainstream suppliers caught up with it, there was all of a sudden an excess of hand sanitizer on the shelves. And that's kind of where Staff Power was invented. The formula was made to address some of the shortcomings, or a real common shortcoming of all the sanitizers is that they dried out your hands. So Staff Power was invented, and that's kind of where we're at today. We're kind of moving it more towards a premium product at this point, kind of a niche product. Black label, if you will, and we're going to be taking out all of the synthetic ingredients and making it a more natural product as well. So our ingredients list is pretty short. It's pretty simple. We use safflower oil, which you can use for cooking, very safe. Deionized water, which is just distilled water, you can drink that. The preservative is used in foods. The emulsifier is used in cosmetics, and the ethyl alcohol while it sounds scary, it sounds like you can run your car on it, but it's just pure corn alcohol, basically. And for my disclaimer, you can drink it, but it's very highly discouraged to drink denatured alcohol, just so that I'm covered there. So, the problem child in our formula is the ethyl alcohol. It's very regulated by the federal government. And in particular, TTB wants to know basically everything you do with your alcohol, where you get it, how much you have of it, what you're going to do with it, and who's going to pay the tax on it. They're very interested in that. So it's a very, very regulated industry. And the ethyl alcohol basically is going to be a common thread through the rest of this presentation. It's going to be the problem child all the way through. So if you're dealing with alcohol in your facility, many fire codes exist about how much alcohol you can have in the building, what type of fire suppression you need to be safe, how much finished product you can have on hand, and insurance is obviously very hard to get as far as property and product liability as well. So since we call it a sanitizer, because we claim it kills germs and it actually does, the FDA regulation comes into play. They determine how much of the alcohol you need to have in the product to be called a sanitizer. And they also have some say over your formulation, your label design, and the actual naming of the product. So anybody that has a product nowadays wants to be on Amazon because that's just where people buy things. Normally, it takes a couple days to get on Amazon. You send them what you got, they send you an approval back, and you're able to ship to them. Because we have alcohol in the formula, we have to be shipped to an Amazon hazmat warehouse, which we're currently on a waiting list. We've been on a waiting list for months, and there's no approval date even in sight. So that's one challenge that we face with that product. So we've been playing with some different formulas. Saf Power is a formula that we're very proud of. It works very well. And we've discovered that it actually works as a natural bug repellent as well with a few tweaks. So now that we say that it's going to repel bugs, the FDA, or actually the EPA comes into play. So we're just starting that paperwork, and I'm sure it's going to be a long and painful process, and we hope to have that out next summer. The only glitch we ran into this summer with it is we ran out of mosquitoes in North Dakota for the first time ever. So we had to send it out to people in Colorado and Texas for testing, and they claim it did work very, very well, so we're happy about that. Bioethanol fuel is another thing that we're coming out with. That's the bomb. There's the bomb. That's for your horse project that we're going to be talking about. Obviously, the trend is, right now everything is moving away from fossil fuels. You want to go green, you want to go sustainable, and this fits in extremely well with that. As you can see, 24 cities in California have already outlawed new natural gas hookups in new constructions. This product works really well, and it's very unique. If you have an ethanol fireplace in your home, you can literally put it anywhere. You can put it in your kitchen, you can put it in your bathroom. It requires no venting whatsoever. It burns clean. You can put it anywhere, and it has a comparable running expense as to like natural gas or propane, so it's very, very economical. So there again, it's a natural product. You can drink it if you want, but you shouldn't. So what could be the problem? Shipping is the problem on pure alcohol. Carriers are extremely reluctant to take anything that's flammable, and I had to attend a training through FedEx to become a FedEx Hazmat certified shipper, which we just got that certification. And once the Consumer Product Safety Division finishes reviewing our label, we'll be ready to sell that as well. So, as you can see, it shouldn't be as hard as it is, but it is because it's deemed a dangerous product. And inventing it is only part of the problem. As you can see, there's many other challenges that you're going to face in having a product like this on the market.
All right. Oh, that's your friend. You keep that one. Awesome. A Molotov cocktail is also, natural.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a great crew up here that you can ask any questions to. Right. Yep, okay. And if you have some questions, please raise your hand or use hashtag 1MCND. Kirsten's going to be our mic runner, so just throw your hand up and she will give you the orange mug which has been, there's some stickers on it that say beware, or I don't know, caution hot or something. We should probably put that on there. So I want to ask you guys, what's maybe, for Brent, what's the weirdest thing someone's asked you to insure in terms of a business? Where you're like, oh my God, man, no, this is going to be crazy. Or you're like, let's do it. Let's jump together.
The weirdest thing personally, I don't know if I can really think of it off the top of my head. I do know that our agency, and Jared's in the back of the room here, he insured for a customer a while back. They were manufacturing body armor. And so that's probably one of the weirdest things that I've ever, like they make like bulletproof vests with it.
Yeah, that's
Talk
definitely
about
something
product
you're going to want to
liability.
insure if you're being shot at.
Right.
Tyler.
Good presentation, good information this morning. Tom, my question's for you. We work with a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs, and they do not want to spend a lot on attorney fees. Imagine that. So oftentimes they're going on the internet, finding a template for a contract or a waiver or an NDA or some of those different common documents they need, and they're filling it out themselves and then taking and using it and assuming they're good. How, when you work with your clients, do you advise them to start with a template and fill out what they can and then bring it to you, or how do you view some of those free tools or kind of public domain tools that are out there?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So a couple pieces to that. One, something is better than nothing most of the time. Sometimes these contracts can be a total disaster and actually be worse than nothing, but typically that's not true. If you're going to have an NDA, even if it's an internet one, if you're going to have an operating agreement, it's better than nothing. If someone is going to come to me and say, hey, I want an operating agreement, if you bring me something off the internet and say, can you edit it, it's going to probably cost just as much as me using my copy I like to use. Just because I have to get familiar with their copy, I have to understand the intricacies, I have to do a bunch of editing. And when you do a bunch of editing, sometimes that takes more time than just starting fresh anyway. But I would, if you can't afford it, and I've run into this many times, someone says, hey, I want to form a company, I want to form an LLC, I really don't have much money, can you just form the entity for me? And that's it. And I'll still tell them, well, find an operating agreement.
It's better to start with something, nothing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
This has been a fun. This has been fun
Hot
so
mic.
far. I have a question for Randy. So the people that you've been testing, like the bug repellent on, and probably did some testing before you started selling the hand or the sanitizing product as well. How do you, or who do you choose to be those testers? Because there must be some kind of liability, maybe?
The answer is easy, it's relatives.
Thinking of that.
My sister and cousins.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Another question for Randy. How did you figure out, this isn't insurance-based or liability-based or something, but how did you figure out the safflowers would be a good product to use to create your product?
Actually, I can't take credit for that. Mr. Marlo Anderson is the one that came up with that formula. So, yeah.
Well, then Marlo should be tested on. Marlo, have you been tested on? Many. Okay. And you haven't grown a horn or a tail or anything? Okay. We have a question online.
Some news from the online world. We got a first-timer checking in, Kelly Dollinger. And then our good friends, the Andersons, have a question for Tom. Evan asks, how well do LLCs stand up in North Dakota in terms of insulating their owners?
LLCs, I would say stand up very well as long as you follow the rules. When it comes to litigation, if you follow the rules, you've maintain separate identity for the company itself, you're not making decisions outside the bounds of the operating agreement, they should stand up. Now, one of the caveats to that is some attorneys say, hey, you know, I want to sue this small business for whatever reason, and you know, I'm going to sue the business and I'm going to sue the owner. I'm just going to throw the owner in there as part of the lawsuit just to try to get them, because I think it's possible maybe I can pierce the corporate veil. And unfortunately, that is a cost for the owner, because I have to figure out, well, can I get the case against myself dismissed? And that might take a little bit of money. But at the end of the day, the LLC should stand up adequately if maintained properly.
Jackie. Okay, I got an attorney in the front row, so get ready.
This is going to be the scariest question ever for Randy. Where can I buy your sanitizer?
We do have an online, on the website, obviously. And retailers in town right now, we have Indy Life Spa, we have Boutique 23, we have Bisman Community Food Co-op, and Arrowhead Plaza Drug.
Awesome. Don, are you asking another question?
Yep.
Okay.
I have another question. And this is more for Brent and Tom. So was this like a lifelong dream of your guys's to be an insurance agent and a patent attorney, like when you were kids and you were like hanging out, you know, like deciding what you wanted to be? Basically, how did you get into
I could totally see Brent, like the kids are riding their bike and like, man, that's not safe.
No.
Your parents, homeowners is not covering that.
No, I don't, and I'll go first, Tom, sorry. I don't know that it was my lifelong dream to be an insurance agent, per se. When I was a kid, though, and you know, you did those, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, I always wanted to be the guy that, like, wore a suit and tie to work. I wanted to be a businessman, right? So I didn't know what that meant, but I knew that businessmen, you know, wore suits and drove nice cars, maybe, whatever. But that's what I wanted to be. And then it was just I've never done anything but insurance, so it was just happened to be my first job out of college. And I've evolved, done different things in the world, but never been outside of the industry.
Do you wear suits and drive a fancy car?
No, I don't do either.
Okay.
It's
well,
great, yeah.
Wow. It's a lot.
It's funny how your life changes.
Tom, were you, people come over to play at your house when you're a kid and you make them sign like a waiver or something?
I didn't start thinking about that till later.
Okay.
But for me personally, you know, I've always enjoyed building things and creating things. And, you know, even as a kid, I was always building things and kind of coming up with creative ideas and whatnot. And you know, I've never really taken the typical path on anything. So, you know, I went to engineering school. I kind of knew in the back of my mind I was thinking about law school down the road, and you know, I got to law school and ended up starting a bunch of businesses and doing that while in law school, and those went well, sold a bunch of it off. And over the course of that time period, I'd done a lot of in-house stuff for the entities I'd started, and I'd hired a lot of attorneys for different matters. And you know, I had some frustrations with different attorneys, and other attorneys were great, and I really saw what worked, what didn't. And so I decided to kind of jump into private practice after I sold off those businesses. And one of the things I knew is I liked building things, liked working with creative people and figuring out out-of-the-box solutions. And patent law, intellectual property is exactly that. Because what I do with specifically patent law is people come in with an idea, and I have to figure out how to understand it in a relatively quick time period, and then come up with a strategy as to how do you protect this idea. So that fits across the board, you know, whether it's the engineering side, the legal side, the business side. It all kind of fits together in what I'm doing right now in the legal world. I didn't initially set out thinking, you know, I'm going to end up, you know, having a law firm focused on, you know, business and law, and I'm going to get my engineering degree, then my MBA, and my law degree. It just kind of came together, and I guess I take that approach on a lot of things, just kind of go with it and see where it goes.
Randy, how old were you when you made your first potato gun?
Honestly, I never did.
What?
No.
You must have been like a Evel Knievel kind of kid, right?
No, what I got into a few years, I think in 2013, I had a lawnmower, and one of the attaching parts just annoyed the heck out of me. So I worked with Evan Anderson, came up with my own attaching part for this lawnmower, and it worked really well. Kind of got bitten by the invention bug at that point, and put it out for sale. It sold pretty well. Actually went to one of the manufacturers to get it integrated into their own production line, which they stole the product, which is not very cool of them. But that's kind of how this whole thing started, and I really do enjoy the invention process. I love filling bottles of safflower. It's great. It's super fun. It's very rewarding.
And I was curious, I saw the picture you had up here, and it was like a sticker book. How do you fit that on a bottle that big? Or, I mean, is the label a huge challenge for you, just in terms of, don't drink this, don't eat this, this will blow up, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah,
I
blah,
mean,
blah.
there's a bunch of things that have to be on the label. You have no choice. But, you know, the design, you're fairly free to do what you want with it. It does have to say certain things, but, you know, the FDA or the drug facts on back are required.
So no potato gun still?
I never did.
Oh.
No.
Meet me afterwards, we'll do something fun. Tyler?
Evan could make an epic potato gun if you asked him to. Yeah.
In fact, I think he did, actually.
Brent, you were saying you wanted to wear a suit and tie. You actually, like, your motif or wardrobe there, that was my ambition, but I'm so jealous of your hair, and that didn't work out, and now I just get everything at Kohl's. So, but I have a question for Brent and for Tom. Brent, when you were presenting, you had all those different coverages up there that businesses might apply to them. When you're in bed at night or after, is there 2 or 3 common coverages that you really wish your clients should take that they don't jump on? Like, I know a lot of those are value added, but are there some where you feel like, oh geez, are my clients really undercovered here?
Yeah, and I think that probably morphs a little bit depending on what's going on in the world. Right now, cyber. Everybody talks about cyber, right? And I mean, it's huge. It's out there. It's happening right now as we speak to somebody, and so that's one thing that people don't. You know, people just don't. Well, I'm a mom and pop shop. I don't need that. Or I have one computer. Well, you never know. So that's one thing for sure. The other thing is probably. And I didn't really speak about it, but Randy did, is products liability. That's something that's huge for anybody, you know, if you're manufacturing a product or if you're selling a product, you know, and Tom can probably speak to this too, but just because I didn't manufacture something, I sold it to Tyler, I might still be brought into that lawsuit and have some sort of cost come out of my pocket, even if it's frivolous and I can get out of it. I'm still going to have to pay somebody to help me get out of it. So those are some of the things. Employment practices liability is a big one, especially, like I said, just with the way the world is. And I don't want to say that in a bad way. It's just the way that it is. And you know, everybody has something that may set them off. And more people are willing to today go to somebody and say, hey, I have a problem with this, than they were 20 years ago.
Question for you, Tom. You said you're looking at legal entities, and you said 9 times out of 10, an LLC is the right way to go. What circumstances or factors would maybe trigger a client to look at a corporation, S corp, or something like that?
So what I would recommend, so LLCs, that's the most common. Corporations are really the most relevant when it comes to startups who are looking to bring on investment and multiple potential rounds of investment. Yeah, LLCs can effectively pretty much do everything a corporation can do. They can be taxed as a corporation and ask whatever. They can do pretty much everything the same, but the investors oftentimes look at a corporation differently than an LLC and are just much more comfortable investing in a corporation. And that's primarily when I say, hey, set up a corporation, might work better for your future business plan.
Have you 3 ever been to a Larks game before? Have you all been? Have you been, Tom? Okay.
Never have.
I'm just thinking about the stuff, because we've got our Larks friend up front. I'm thinking about the stuff they do in between innings and stuff, and he's been chewing his nails down here the whole time. Writing down, like, maybe we shouldn't light that, thing on fire or whatever. Yeah, okay. But it's important. Hey, fun is dangerous sometimes. Right? That's part of the fun. Okay. Kirsten.
Randy, you've got a crazy idea. It's probably flammable. Who's the first person you call?
The first person was the insurance agent.
Yeah.
On the fireplace fuel. So we had the sanitizer insured already, and that was pretty tough to get insured because it's flammable. On the fireplace fuel, it's purely flammable. That's all it does is burn. So we sent it to the guy, and he was like, ooh, this is going to be kind of tough. So he actually gave me clips or little snippets about what his carrier said. He went through, I think, 10 carriers to find somebody that would accept it. And most of them were like, oh, this, we wouldn't be interested in this. This isn't in our risk palette. One guy was like, hell no. He just put, okay.
Our risk palette. Nice.
Yeah.
Tom, someone texted me a question about why that you have slides in your office. What is that about?
What I have slides. So I work in a building. There's a couple different businesses in there, and it's kind of, there's a bunch of technology businesses in there too. So it's myself and a couple other ones, and it's kind of Google-ish in there. And it's it's all about the staff, making the employees really feel like they're important, they're involved, giving benefits above just the pay itself, and making it a fun atmosphere to work. And that's really the purpose of the slides itself. It's always fun to show potential clients some of the different features in the buildings, the unique conference rooms. One table is just a giant computer built into a table, and there's a bison room and this room and that room. And it's just kind of a fun building to work in, and employees really enjoy it.
Fun, danger, see? Opposite sides of the same coin. Is there a question from social, or you guys just...
It's just Evan.
Just Evan. Evan, we love you. Evan and Janya, go for it.
Yeah. Any advice for people wanting to go down the entrepreneurial path? Randy.
Randy, you could have just made canned koozies, and you'd be, made in the shade.
A lot easier, but...
Yeah.
Just set your expectation. Don't set your expectations so high that you're going to be disappointed. I don't want to say set your expectations low right away, but maybe set them realistic. You start with an idea, and Evan is a great person to talk to about this if anybody's thinking about doing something. He's very good at tempering your expectations because, you start with an idea, you decide if it's feasible or not. He puts a lot of reality into it. Is this thing going to work? How dangerous is this? Is it going to blow somebody's head up or cut someone's arm off? So I think just be prepared. It's not going to be the easiest thing you've ever done, but if you do get it to work, it's going to be the best thing you've ever done and the most rewarding thing you've ever done.
If you got your finger stuck in a pumpkin gutter thing and you were turning that, yeah, that could do some damage, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Sorry, Evan. Evan, we love you wherever you're at, you and Janya. Mwah. It's safe. It's very safe product. Actually, I can't say that. I shouldn't say that, right? I don't know. You guys help me out. Am I going to get sued now?
No.
Okay. All right.
Safe is a relative term.
Okay. Nice. We probably have time for one more question, and then we're going to do our final question. Oh. They're just making fun of me? Okay, gotcha. Maybe one thing, and this is the one I always think about, but I always think of axe throwing at Laughing Sun, and I just think, what was the process to make that happen? There's just an alcohol and a weapon, throwing weapons around, which is so much fun, by the way. Danger, fun. Larks, come see me, we'll figure that out, the axes. But how do you guys look at something like that? They come to you and you're like, hey, we have a brewery and we want to put in 4 axe throwing lanes with a spear, an axe, a hatchet, ninja stars, which were fun, and like metal cards. We're going to throw them up against a wall while drinking. Brent, what's the cost? It's got to be some major cash going on.
Again, I said safe is a relative term. Cost is also relative, right? Because if you're doing something like that, you have to expect that your insurance is going to be high. And as an insurance agent, like, we just want to help people mitigate the risk. Like, I'm not an actuary, I'm not an underwriter. Like, if you want to throw axes and drink beer, I'm all about it. Let's just figure out how we can make it so that you don't lose your business.
Tom, are you all about it? You looked more nervous, maybe.
There's some definite risk there. And I would, if you own the building, put it in a different company. If you own the business, put it in a different, business entity. How are you training the people actually using it? What is the response when someone cuts their finger when they're, playing with one of the axes? What are some of the processes? So that I think there's a lot of documentation and planning that you really need to think through before you jump into something like that. But it's, most things have some level of risk, and that one has a little bit more in a couple different categories and kind of unique. So,
Randy, we could put some like alcohol on the end of the axe, light it up, throw it.
You read my mind. Step it up and, kick it up.
Okay, let's get rid of some of that stuff.
Flaming axe.
Amazon. Yeah, okay. Awesome. All right, well, you guys were awesome. Please find them afterwards if you have questions, maybe a business you're thinking about. These guys are just gigantic brains, so, find them, suck all that knowledge right out of them. We always ask the same last question, and Kirsten's going to ask it today. Kirsten, give her a go.
You guys insurance is so scary to me. So I appreciate all your questions, Tom. I would they drive me crazy. But it's so important for entrepreneurs to be here and to learn and to see that there are people who really want to help and make their dreams happen. So thanks for being here. And our last question is, what can we as a 1 Million Cups BizMan community do to help you succeed in your business?
Randy, why don't you start?
It's easy for me. Go back to your businesses, and it's not just for Sapphire, which is a local product. It's for every local producer in Bismarck or any small town. Go back to your employers, to your state agencies. Tell them to buy local. We have great companies here that make great things, and all too often, we look for the easiest answer. You go out to Amazon and find your products there that have nothing to do with your local community. Just support your local community businesses. I think is the best thing that you can do to help.
There was a smattering. Go for it. There you go. Okay. Tom.
I think that's excellent advice by local. Kind of back to a question Evan asked would almost be my advice. If you start a business, obviously love to talk to you about it and whatnot, and that helps my business. But don't be afraid to try, because I think someone's much better off giving it a shot and trying than not trying. I have a lot more respect for someone who tries than someone who does nothing. And, my business wins when entrepreneurs are out there growing businesses and making innovation and making things happen. So do that, and I always love to help startups, love to help businesses develop too.
Brent, 2 questions before we get to that one. What does your insurance like when you're doing insanity at home? Are you covered?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I'm not for the earthquake, but
Well, right.
but if we knock a light down or something, maybe there's some coverage.
So how can we help you, Brent?
I would just say, be nice to the insurance professional that you work with. Don't run away. Don't tell them you want the cheapest thing out there. They're trying to help you. Most of them are. They want to see what's right for you. They're assessing your risk, thinking of things that you're probably not thinking about, and bringing that to you. Now, that doesn't mean that everything that they present to you, you have to buy, right? You can take and give what you want, but just be willing to sit down, have that conversation, and let them do their job. Because if we can't do our job, then you might be in trouble.
That wasn't a threat. That was advice. So, all right, give it up for these 3. Oh, yeah. We've got a great, bring your own goat. we'll have to clear that with Dakota Stage, Adam. I don't know that we've done that yet. But Balancing Goat's going to be here next week, and then TrackNet Sports. This is more for you, Brent. Golf addiction counseling will also be provided afterwards. This is a cool product. We've been trying to get him here forever, and Tyler's secured him. So good job, Tyler. We'll be here every Wednesday, but we're getting close to the end of the year. So we end right before Thanksgiving, and then December we're off for a while. So make sure you hit up these last few 1 million cups, and we will see you cats next week. Okay, see ya.